Hello, this is Jerry Morton. Welcome to my podcast series titled Finding My Way, a memoir by Jerry Morton. This is podcast 76, Catching an Error. Podcast 76, Catching an Error, is an account of an observation I made of interactions of children with serious disabilities enrolled in a birth to 3-year-old program. One child in the program became my teacher. I think the year was 1989. Podcast 76, Catching an Error. I hadn't visited one of the program sites for the Birth to 3 program for children with serious disabilities all year. I didn't want the staff to think that I was ignoring their good work. I decided that sometime that week, the year was probably 1989, I would stop by in the morning on my way to the Educational Cooperative's central offices. Before I share with you the wonderful interactions I observed, it will help you better understand what I saw if you know a little about the program's delivery model. The Educational Cooperative had developed an outstanding birth to 3-year-old program for children with serious disabilities. It had started with a 3-year national demonstration grant from the U.S. Department of Education. Miss Pam Potosik, a school psychologist, served as the director of the program and has continued in that role into the present day. Thanks to the staff's excellent work, the program continued after the conclusion of the federal grant. Financial support came from the Tennessee Department of Education, the 7-member school systems of the cooperative, the United Ways of the 3 rural counties in which the program's site was located, as well as from contributions of local businesses and concerned individuals. The program received the 1987 National Exemplary Program Award in Early Childhood Intervention from the American Council of Rural Special Education, ACRES. As director of the cooperative, I was particularly proud of the way the Birth to 3 program assisted the children and the support it received from the surrounding school systems and communities. The program's delivery model was unique and highly effective. The grant had required rigorous data collection on the results of the program in improving the performance of the children with disabilities. The improvements were both dramatic and statistically significant. The service delivery model was making major improvements in the young children's ability to function, which meant that the quality of their lives and those of their family members was much improved as compared to before the children entered the program. It also meant that the local school systems did not need to provide as comprehensive a set of services to the children when they entered their special education programs. It took considerable professional planning and skill for the cooperative's Birth to 3 staff to create and continually improve the program's delivery model. Their efforts ensured the continuation of the remarkable results produced by the program. Children with serious disabilities were admitted into the program on a first request placement basis. Unfortunately, this meant that the program had a waiting list of children needing the services. There was never enough funding to enroll all of the children needed the services at any one time. Once a Birth to 3 child turned 3 and became eligible to enter a public schools program, the next child on the waiting list would be admitted. This process produced a wide range of disabilities the various participating children would have at any one time. For example, at one county birth to 3 site, there could be an 18-month-old child with hearing loss, a 6-month-old child with significant brain damage, a 2-year-old child who was blind, intellectually gifted, and had corrective braces for leg deformities, a 14-month-old child with language delays, as well as a 30-month-old child with autism and severe tactile defensiveness. The professional service delivery providers at the program sites included physical and occupational therapists, speech and language specialists, school psychologists, social emotional interventionists, vision and mobility specialists, nurses, early childhood special education teachers, and teacher aides. The amount of time any one of these specialists would spend working in the Birth to 3 program was dependent on the specific needs of the children enrolled at any given time. The program considered the child's family to be an extension of the child. This resulted in careful involvement of family members in the planning, implementation, and after-school support of the child's program day. Administratively, working out schedules, determining the wisest use of available funding, developing program sites that met the technical standards required to meet the safety needs of these multiple physically challenged children, and a host of other issues were challenging. New delivery of service models were required if the needs of the children were to be met. It was the creative way that the educational cooperative staff proposed to meet these administrative challenges, paired with highly innovative strategies, uniting the diverse needs of the children into a common theme-based delivery model that enabled the cooperative to win the National Demonstration Grant. The Birth to 3 program staff had developed a series of monthly themes that were followed and woven into the individual education plans, IEPs, carefully developed by each service delivery specialist, addressing the unique needs of every individual child at the program site. For example, the September theme included the color red and things that move and go. The staff would use as many props with the children as they could that contained the color red. Red apples, red cars, red dressed dolls, fire engines, red leaves, red crayons, and etc. The speech and language therapist would use a red ball when working with a child learning to shape her mouth to begin to make the B sound. The same child's physical therapist would have a shoebox with a picture of a red fire truck on its sides positioned on the floor for the child with cerebral palsy to stretch his leg out to push the shoebox across the floor. In turn, the occupational therapist would hold up a scented picture of a red apple for the child to grasp and bring to her nose. The educational specialist would have red Jell-O as part of the morning snack for the children to eat. Periodically, all of the specialists representing their various areas of expertise would meet and discuss what they were doing with each child so that there would be continuous overlap in how each of the various professionals supported the others in their united goal of assisting the children in the best way possible. This strategy ensured that the child was receiving services that were integrated rather than discrete, unrelated therapy sessions from therapists working in isolation from each other. I would be remiss if I didn't explain how each child's individual education program, IEP, was rigorously adhered to within the theme-based model. At every activity station in which the child would be during attendance in the program was a posted IEP graph that listed what IEP goals and objectives or subtasks were being addressed at that station. There was a section of the graph for a staff person to mark if specific objectives, subtasks, of the goal had been attempted but not achieved, partially achieved, or fully achieved. If it had been accomplished, then the next task, objective, to be achieved was listed. That objective would become the new focus of attention the next time the child was at that station. For example, let's say we have an 8-month-old child who is at the bathroom station having his diaper changed. His occupational therapist has listed on his IEP that a goal for him is to be able to grasp a moving object passed in front of him. This goal is projected to be accomplished within 30 days. 5 objectives or subtasks are listed on the chart. Once all 5 objectives have been accomplished, the goal will have been obtained. The child can consistently grasp a moving object. The immediate objective on the chart is to have the child attempt to reach for an object. The staff person has laid the child on the changing table and in the process of changing his diapers, moves the new diaper with the color red on it back and forth within arm's reach of the child's face, encouraging him to reach for it as part of a game. When the child waves his arms at the diaper in an effort to touch it, he is happily praised for his efforts. After the new diaper is secured, the staff person notes the progress of the child in reaching for an object. Thus, the progress of the child is continuously recorded and monitored at every station every day. Each child has a very personalized IEP that is monitored for progress and adjusted accordingly. The Birth to 3 staff has written a description of their delivery model that provides a far greater understanding of it than I have done. I just want you to be aware of the scope of the program I was about to observe. When I walked into the Birth to 3 program site, the staff were just bringing the children together to sit on the floor in a big circle to begin their morning ritual for starting the school day. There was a staff person with each child. I recognized all of them: the physical therapist, the speech and language pathologist, the educational specialist, and the others. All of the staff had all been with the program for a long time. These professionals loved the children, the effectiveness of the delivery model in which they were valuable contributors, and the positive work environment that enabled them to be so effective with the children. The 10 or so staff members each had a child sitting between their outstretched legs, with the exception of one little girl. She was sitting in a wheelchair as part of the completed circle. As I bent down to sit in the circle with everyone else, I knew what was going to happen. We would identify a child in the circle to whom to sing the good morning song. Then the song and its focus would move to another child until they had all been addressed as part of the song. The girl in the wheelchair appeared to be about 2 or a little older. It's hard to tell the exact age of these children, since they can be so varied from birth to almost 3, and all of them have some significant disabilities. Quickly glancing at the girl, I thought her posture might suggest some form of spinal bifida. The glance was so brief that I wasn't sure what her disability might be. The last thing I wanted to do was to cause a child to feel awkward. I certainly wasn't going to stare at her. Actually, I didn't know what disabilities were present in each of the children. I had not researched their records before arriving. This was just a visit to represent my show of support for the staff's good work as the director of the educational cooperative. I just wanted to let them know that they were valued. These were truly outstanding professionals. It was a privilege to be in their presence. As fate would have it, I sat directly across from the girl in the wheelchair. Another casual glance her way did not reveal what kind of disability she might have. My first impression of her was how lovely she looked. She had a big, bright smile. Her sandy red hair was in curls, and her green eyes simply sparkled as she joined in singing to the child that the ball rolled across the circle to signal who would be the focus of our singing. Good morning, Brian, good morning to you. We're glad to meet you, Brian, we're glad to greet you, Brian. Good morning to you. Brian clapped his hands in joy as the song was sung despite his lack of vocalization. We all laughed and clapped our hands for Brian as the song came to an end. The wheelchair girl vigorously laughed with the group, but she didn't clap her hands. It was then that I noticed she didn't have arms. Well, then I realized that she was missing her legs as well. Here was this little girl with so much joy in her without arms or legs. I felt a pang of regret for her, which I hid from my face as Brian's adult rolled the ball across the floor to another child. The song began again. Good morning, Mary. Good morning to you. We're glad to meet you, Mary. We're glad to greet you, Mary. Good morning to you. The girl, who had no arms or legs, sang with great strength and joy every time a child had the ball rolled to the spread legs of his or her supporting adult. With all of us laughing and enjoying the greeting song's wonderful response from the children and adults, the ball was rolled to another child. Unexpectedly, the ball hit the outstretched foot of the intended child supporting adult. Bouncing off of that foot, the ball slowly rolled to the center of the circle and stopped. Several of the adults started making various grunting sounds as they began the process of pulling in their legs and started to stand up in order to retrieve the stranded ball. As the little wheelchair girl gleefully shouted, "I'll get it!" Before anyone could respond, she quickly slipped herself out of the wheelchair and onto her belly. Just as quickly she wiggled her body straight to the ball. Trapping the ball between her chin and her chest, she instantly twisted her head and launched the ball in a straight line directly to the intended child. Everyone broke into applause and laughter. Shouts of, "Well done! That's my girl! Right on!" and the like greeted her as she wiggled back to her wheelchair where her attending adult helped her back into the seat. She simply beamed with pride at her accomplishment. As I thought, she doesn't feel sorry for herself. She is full of the joy of life. She just proved that she can accomplish good things and be of help to others. She doesn't see herself as having limitations. She sees herself as embracing the life before her. Lots of adults would have to teach her that there's something wrong with her. They would have to teach her that they feel sorry for her. and she should feel sorry for herself. She would have to be taught that she's not as good as others if she is to think these things about herself. I don't want to be one of those who teaches her these things. I am not going to feel sorry for her. I am going to see her as she is, as she always is, a wonderful gift to the world.